My name is Matt Melvin. I wrote a book called Bullied Behind Bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. I wrote it the second time I was in prison, 10 institutions, 4 states, 16 months, and a month and a half in a halfway house.
So let's go back to the beginning. How was your childhood like?
I was bullied throughout all of my childhood. I was overweight. I was different. I didn't fit into the norm. I learned differently. And instead of embracing myself, I allowed what the bully said. I thought that what they were saying was the truth, when in fact they were not speaking the truth.
So walk me through the actual events that led you to your case.
The first time I was in prison, I worked at a car dealership, Freedom Nissan on Shelburne Road. They didn't pay me my commissions. I impulsively chose to try to sell one of their cars, got caught. Instead of going through the mental health court, Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria and went through the traditional court. Came out with a record, couldn't pass a background check. In 2009, I used other people's information to work. I did the work. The government pursued me for 6 years, spent $500,000, went to 10 grand juries, finally got a grand jury indictment against me in 2016. The federal system has a 96% conviction rate, and a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich.
What kind of environment was jail like, fighting your cases?
Chaos. Stressful.
I can imagine.
Anxiety. You didn't know, 1 minute it could be calm, and the next minute fights are breaking out.
How was your first day in jail? Can you walk us through that?
First day in jail, quarantined in booking for, I believe it was a 72-hour hold is typical for booking. And, you know, having a small space and 20 guys in one little cell, one bathroom, no wall, no privacy, lights are on, people are making noises, scary.
Did people treat you different because of your sexuality?
Absolutely, no question. I'm a gay man.
What kind of things did they do?
Well, the inmates would lie to the guards and try to tell them that I tried to proposition them. I was put in solitary confinement. They would push the tables against my cell door and lock me in. And it was scary. I called my brother on the phone and let him know what was going on. And my brother said, I will take care of it. Within an hour, the Secret Service and IRS agents that had arrested me showed up to my brother's place of employment and threatened him. Government wheels against any inmate that's in prison. They are listening to every phone call you make, and if they don't get their way, they will intimidate people in your life to turn on you. Men that are in prison have sexually transmitted diseases, and they're using drugs, and you know, you never know what kind of disease somebody's carrying with them. And if you contract a disease, it can end you.
Yeah, that's a fact. So did you get along with anybody during your time in jail?
I got along with a couple of volunteers that came in for Bible study, but I was a target. I was writing my story, journaling, writing what was going on. And at one of the facilities, they actually confiscated my journal entries. They've confiscated my Bibles. They do whatever they want to intimidate you.
How was getting processed in prison like?
It was scary. I mean, just having all of your rights taken away, removing all articles of clothing, you know, having to do squats and expose layers of your body that nobody wants to see.
Now, I forgot to ask you this. Did you ever have a cellmate?
I had several cellmates.
You didn't get along with them?
Here's the thing. You never know what somebody's capable of. So 1 minute that person could be okay, and the next minute they could kill you. You just don't know what somebody's capable of. I mean, people aren't in prison because they crossed the road.
Did the bullying persist into prison?
Oh, the bullying persisted everywhere, every institution I went.
Why did they pick you out?
I wrote a lot of grievances to hold the institutions responsible for their actions. And I was writing about my story, I wanted to share with the world what I was going through. And whenever you're writing about other people, it brings fear in others.
Did you ever think I might not make it through this in prison?
Oh, absolutely. I thought that many, many times. I was assaulted by a sex offender. I was raped in one of the institutions I was at.
Can you get into that?
How did I get into that?
Yeah,
By being forced into a cell and through a gang initiation being targeted.
that was a gang initiation.
Well, yes, a gang member had to commit a violent act, and his violent act was to sexually assault me.
That's crazy. I never heard that. I always thought, to get in the gang, you gotta get beaten. That's how I got in the gang. I don't advise anybody joining gangs, but just committing that's something unique that I didn't know. What happened? How did you get through that experience?
Journaling, Jesus Christ died for my sins, forgiving myself, not allowing other people to determine who I was, being a survivor.
Were you scared that it could continue?
Oh,
That wasn't a one
absolutely.
time thing. So how did you stop it from? Did it just didn't go anywhere else?
I distanced myself. I got out of that institution. I didn't want to have it ever happen to me again.
A lot of people they talk about PREA. That never occurred to you to try to do that?
It's a joke.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
I filled out a form when I was in MDC Brooklyn to that effect. And when I got out, the institution claims that they didn't know anything about it.
I hate hearing that, that happened to you. That's why I like to forewarn people that prison, anything can happen in there. It's not a place you want to go. The guards, you might think a lot of people think that prison is a safe place because they got a lot of guards and stuff in there. But I'm telling you, they're there to make sure that you're, in there. They're not there for your protection, the inmates' protection some of the times. When you said you got assaulted, was that part of that right there, or was it another separate event?
No, it was a separate incident. I don't know if the guy thought I was coming on to him or something, but it was clearly not the case.
Can you do you feel like walking us through how that happened?
I mean, we were at that time we were sleeping on the floor in the day room, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but the guy blew what happened out of proportion, and he just sucker punched me.
Ever fear for your life when that was happening?
Yes, absolutely. I didn't know if other men were going to attack me. I didn't know if I was going to be killed. I didn't know if I was going to be dragged into a cell.
Was this before or after that the other incident happened?
After.
Because I know. Oh, so yeah, that all that's running through your head. You're thinking that this can escalate to that.
Right.
Going through something like that, what does it do to you mentally?
It steals your joy, your happiness, your safety.
Is it hard for you to trust people now?
Yes, it's always been hard for me to trust somebody.
But now I bet it's crazy hard.
It
I bet you
is,
don't
yes,
trust anybody now.
because you never know what somebody's intentions are.
True. What's the biggest lie people believe about prison, do you think?
That it's rehabilitation when it's really not rehabilitation, it's punishment.
Yeah. To me, I believe it's a money thing. A lot of private companies, they're building these prisons just based on money and stuff. They're not helping people. They're not making people better. They're just, packing as many people as they can in there. They have short staffed. How were the COs where you did your time at?
They were terrible. They didn't care about what was going on. They were just trying to get through their shift and get out of there.
Did you ever see any corruption?
Not to my knowledge, but it was probably there.
What would you tell your younger self in one sentence about prison? If you can warn them.
Don't light the fire.
What do you want your legacy from this book to be?
That I came out stronger on the other side. My relationship with Jesus is grown. My knowledge about the Bible is exponential.
Yeah, can we talk about that a little bit? Did that help you get through your sentence?
No
How
question.
it was? Did you see it help anybody else? Help others?
Not really.
Not at all.
Because I think there's a lot of people that go to prison and they have Jesusitis, and they just think that they just need Jesus to get them out of prison and then they'll be okay.
Yeah, they'll pray to him, they'll follow the book until they get out, and then they have nothing to do with it, right?
Right.
What part of your personality had to die in prison for you to survive?
The flesh. The flesh has to die.
I already asked you that question. I was going to ask you, did prison make you more paranoid? But we already went through that. Did you ever feel like you were losing your identity inside? Like you weren't even you no more?
No, I was always me.
What's one thing you did in prison that the old you would have never done?
Gone to Bible study.
How was the food there? And
Terrible.
although, out of all the places you went,
All of the facilities had terrible food.
what's one tray that you can remember that you hated? The worst tray.
Hot dogs and black beans. I'm sorry, brown beans.
That was probably my favorite. But not the ground beans. It had baked beans, but it had hot dogs and baked beans for lunch. That was probably one of my favorite trays. Now, this is a personal question for me. Did you ever have they used to call it monkey brain. It's like a big meatball. Did they serve that where you were at? I hated that. Okay, now what's the best tray?
I don't think any were good. They were all terrible.
Yeah, it's not even real meat. It's soybean stuff. Did you ever see somebody completely break mentally in there?
Yes, the guy who swan dived.
Yeah. Is there something that happened in prison that you didn't you never told anybody until your book?
Oh, I mean, nobody knew what went on until my book came out.
Yeah, I mean, when your book finally came out, what effect did that have on other people? Do you think it helped
Some
them?
people were angry that I had published the book, exposing the corruption. There was a lot of corruption in the town of Shelburne. The chief of police, Aaron Noble, targeted me, no question. And in fact, in 2023, he received a $200,000 payout to just go away.
Right. What was the most lonely moment you had in there?
Being in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day is very lonely.
Now how was that? Solitary confinement, I've been there, but to the viewer that's watching this, what is there to do in that cell? How do you
Nothing.
get through it?
By having a relationship with God, by not allowing them to break me.
Now, when you finally did get out, is there any good traits and negative traits that followed you from prison to the outside world?
I mean, certainly my criminal record was extended, which has made it very difficult to find employment.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. they lock us up, they let us out, and it's harder for us to get a job or do anything. And when we go back to doing what the only thing we know how to do, they just lock us back up again. It's a revolving door. What motivates you never to go back there?
I didn't want to ever feel like I had no rights. I never wanted to be violated like that again.
Yeah.
Didn't really make a difference.
Okay, so what's something about prison nobody on YouTube or TV they don't get?
Until you've been in there, you don't know how scary it is.
Do you think one decision changed your entire life path, or was it a series of them?
It was always a series of bad decisions. It was never just one.
Do you think your book helps people?
I do, yes.
What do you feel like it gives you a inside look at prison to the people that's never been?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, because there's a lot of people, they come into the lives and stuff that I do, and they're like, all inmates are dirt bags, you know, but people make mistakes and they don't understand that, anybody can get locked up. Anybody can. Or somebody can say you did something and you're gonna go to jail and you gotta prove that you didn't do it.
All it takes is an accusation to
Exactly,
ruin
yeah.
somebody's life forever.
Yes. Do you feel like this being in the system, do you feel like it helped you at all?
No.
You don't think for instance, when I went to prison, I kind of feel like it gave me I learned more respect because I didn't have respect for anybody before. You didn't get any traits like that? Yeah, because you basically stayed to yourself, right? I can't blame you either. I really can't, you know. So how does it feel, being in a place you can't escape and you got like a target on your back? What does that do to you?
It can cause you to have panic attacks, anxiety, but I just let it wash off my back like a duck. I didn't take it personally. Because if they're
Yeah.
not going to do it to me, they're going to do it to somebody else.
And you said religion helped you a lot to get past that. Yeah. Because a lot of people in that situation, they probably would have hurt themselves. They couldn't take it. But I commend you because, instead of, harming yourself or doing anything like that, you wrote all your pain down into this book. Did you want to share anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to share one other thing. In 2023, on Father's Day, an individual that I was in prison with actually showed up at our house and thought that he was going to live here.
Well, Keith, what is that about?
I don't know. It was very, very scary. I mean, I had known this individual when I was growing up. I mean, I had known who he was. I didn't have a friendship with him or anything, but it was really very, very odd that he would show up with one bag and thought that he was going to live with me and my family.
Did you have a hard time getting rid of them?
No, we threatened to call the police.
That's crazy. There's a lot of crazy people in this world. For somebody just to show up, it's not like he asked you. He just said, I'm here. You know, this is what's going to happen.
Right. And my address was put out for the world to see. When the United States government released my charges, they released my address as well to the public.
So they basically doxed you.
Yes.
Is that the only instance has come out of that, or has more
Yes.
stuff happened?
Nope, that's the only thing.
Hopefully nothing else happens. Hopefully. So what are your plans for the future?
I want to get on stages and speak about autism, how terrible the mental health assistance is, that there is no assistance in the federal system. They don't even have a mental health court. And the thing is, Ryan, if I had been allowed to go through the mental health court way back in 2004, we may not even be talking today, because I would have completed it successfully, not have a record. We wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. That's for sure. You know, that's one of the things, getting out, you feel like you don't have any help. Do you think that's something they could work on? Helping
There
inmates
is no
get
help.
out?
Nobody wants to help anybody, especially not a felon. I mean, when
Down there
you're
where you
a felon, you become almost irredeemable.
Yeah. You can't vote no more. You can't hold a gun. You can't protect yourself.
You can't
Down
adopt a
here,
child.
yeah, in Maryland where I'm at, there's actually, I found a group down here, but you know, in some states they might not have it. But you know, they help me a little bit. You guys don't have nothing like that at all? I mean, this is not funded by the state. This is their own little personal. This is an inmate that got out and started this right here. If anybody was more interested in hearing more about your story, where could they find you at? What platforms?
I'm on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars, X Bars Bullied, Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621. Email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. Don't stay silent. Speak up.
And if somebody wants to, you know, buy your book and have a read for themselves, where can they buy that?
It's on Amazon. And if you
Okay.
buy it, I will autograph it for you for free.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the, you know, show. I appreciate you for, you know, telling your story and, you know,